New topic, the ABC. Let's imagine you're Prime Minister today. What would you do to make the ABC serve the nation the way it's meant to?
Well, I'd start with the related matter of abolishing the SBS. We don't need SBS anymore. Our society's mature enough and people have got information access enough. We don't need that dedicated station. The ABC, though, I think there's room for a national broadcaster, but it's got to be fair. It can't be just a club for lefties where basically, you know, you need to be related to Barry Cassidy or Tony Jones to get a job there. It's a real incestuous, nepotistic club. It's dreadful. It's worse than any elite men's club that's ever been invented. You really have to be a family member and a lefty to get a start at the ABC, and it's become totally biased. So what I'd do is try and democratise it. I'd have a rule that any Australian could put a blog on the ABC platforms, you know, write up their columns and their information, or use podcasting or webcasting. The ABC should harness all the technologies that we've been using, Dave, to say that we're not here to just provide information for a certain political view with these little club members. We're going to open the whole thing up. We're going to use all the information technologies. If you want to put a blog on or a podcast or a webcast, we've got the open forum in which you can do that, and we'll then respond to what the Australian people say. Say Church and State is the most popular webcast that's available on their IT platforms. Well, that would be a vote of confidence from the Australian people, a democratic vote in favour of your show. So you'd get ABC free to airtime because you're the most popular one on the IT platform. So I democratise the ABC. I think the great shame of the modern ABC is they're not harnessing these technologies. It's left to us in alternative media. They, as a public organisation, should open it all up, let people contribute. The most popular ones then get a go. If you're the most popular political commentator, you get to host the 7:30 report instead of Lee Sales, or you get to host Q&A instead of Tony Jones. So let the people decide instead of this little lefty club
community
down
TV.
there. Yeah, community TV, democratise the ABC so the public can say, we want to listen to him, we want to listen from her, we want to watch so-and-so, and they become the big ABC personalities instead of the ones we've got now.
Does its budget need adjustment?
Well, maybe you can cut the budget if it's a open democratic IT platform. You probably could, because these technologies are relatively inexpensive compared to big fixed infrastructure of TV studios that they've got now. You know, that building they've got in Ultimo is just absolutely massive. So I think the new technologies would be less expensive, so you could probably make some budgetary savings. But the most important thing is open it up so everyone gets a chance to put their stuff on the ABC platforms and has a sense that it does belong to us instead of belonging to this little political elite club. So open it up, democratise it, and hand it back to the people.
Awesome. Any questions on the ABC or anything we've just covered? We'll take a question from anybody that hasn't already been up, and then we'll look for...
We'll democratise the question
return
asking.
offenders.
Cheers, Mark. So one of the things, I think it was on the Australian, it was about the ABC a few weeks ago, was that the problem is that it's a public broadcaster, but it's very progressive. It's trying to actually lead conversations rather than it's taking public money. It should be sort of following the trends and, you know, in a sense, basically be sort of like be able to do, what is it, the word, anti-commercial, you know, ability. They have the ability to investigate things rather than trying to push sort of social agendas that they do a lot. And, you know, obviously you've said, you know, that, you know, it could become a community TV thing, but in sort of like the sort of short term, should there be a push from the ABC board towards basically going, you know, stop trying to push agendas, you know, push political views, social views,
absolutely,
and, you know, take a step back and,
absolutely,
you know, just, you know, they don't need the money, they don't need the ad revenue, so they have the ability to just, you know, actually just report facts, which they clearly, you know, don't do.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt the ABC, because it's a small lefty club, is pushing a certain social engineering agenda. And the classic example, particularly with the men's conference here on the Gold Coast, is the domestic violence debate, because there's a lefty viewpoint on domestic violence, that it's a product of patriarchy, that we're a naturally male-dominated society in all respects, every single man's a potential wife basher. Well, there's a bunch of women in particular who take a different point of view, that domestic violence is not only perpetrated against women but also men, and that domestic violence is not evenly spread across society. It's not a product of patriarchy, it's a product of drugs, alcohol, poverty, disadvantage. It's heavily concentrated in Indigenous communities in Australia. Now, a lot of these women are very articulate and successful. I'm thinking of Cassie J, who's here in Australia, who produced the documentary The Red Pill. Karen Strawn, who's a wonderful advocate. We've got our own homegrown advocates along these lines, Bettina Miranda Devine, who's spoken at the conference. Now, there are scores of left feminists who'll get on the ABC pushing their line. The four women I've mentioned there, Cassie J, Karen Strawn, Miranda Devine, Bettina Miranda, they don't get on the ABC. You know, the two I hear from the United States, Cassie and Karen, were offered up to go on Q&A and different ABC programs, and they weren't wanted. These are internationally articulate, wonderfully capable women who can't get a spot on the vast resources of our public broadcaster. It's a disgrace that the debate is so biased against them that their voice can't be heard. So absolutely, it's dreadful how it's just become a club for a certain kind of view on that and many other issues. You know, it's not just domestic violence, but you could name 100 issues where the ABC is like some kind of electronic political party pushing a certain point of view instead of presenting the other side of the story in a balanced debate.
It's sort of like, you know, Get Up, but, you know, it's publicly funded.
Yeah, it's Get Up, funded by us, the poor old stupid taxpayers. We're funding this rubbish and not getting any balance whatsoever. And I think it's a disgrace that you'd have two wonderful international spokespeople for a certain type of feminism who are here in our country, and they got a little bit on the commercial outlets. Karen Strawn did the live Facebook streaming on my platform on Tuesday night, but otherwise they're restricted to the conference and they can't get a run on the ABC. It's a disgrace.
Cheers, Mark.
Thank you. Let me introduce one of the guests from one of my recent episodes, a real outsider who actually inspired Margaret Court to stand up and give her unapproved opinion in public, because she actually referenced Stuart Ballantyne, one of the prominent businessmen here on the Gold Coast, owner of Australia's largest shipbuilding business. And Stuart wrote a letter to the editor, sorry, not to the editor, well, he actually did send it to the newspapers as well, but he sent a letter to the board of Qantas saying, I'm taking the $500,000 to $700,000 that I spend with you each year in airfares, and I'm taking my business elsewhere because I'm sick of having your moral agendas shoved in my face when I just want a plane ride. And
yeah, good on you.
Thank you. But the first, just to finish off the ABC, I sent a note to Tony Abbott before the 2013 election. I said, please do yourself and the country a favour, sell 51% of the ABC. I said the same to Malcolm Turnbull before he became the Prime Minister. I said, please sell 51% because you can't tickle it around. They're not going to change. You will never change them, you know, get them to be politically correct or change it. They just won't change unless someone else owns them or someone else controls them. Anyway, that was my thing on the
How about making me chairman of the board? That'd sort them out, wouldn't it? Make me chairman of the ABC, I'd change them. They put some people in, though. They put Howard's mate, Donald McDonald, in there, and they bought him off and sent him on opera tours through Europe. So they're not stupid down there. They know how to deal with some of these weak conservatives. They need to put some hard people in there to sort them out. I think you could change them with the right leadership, but we haven't had it. Sorry, Stuart.
But selling 51%, A, we need the money. B, we don't need the hassle.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, that's a good idea too. We'll do that too.
So
why not?
I'm a simple man. Just with Qantas, I've been flying with Qantas. I started my business here in Southport, 1976. It was a few kilograms ago. And I'm not in the business of shipbuilding, I'm in the business of ship design. I run Australia's largest ship design company.
My bad, sorry, I said building. It's designing.
Designing, yeah. I know I don't look that smart, but...
Well, good on you for inspiring Margaret Court, who's a great Australian. And I thought she presented herself magnificently.
She did.
In the public debate. Stood up for her boys.
Yeah. But essentially my letter was geared from a secular point of view, even though I'm a Christian. I've been sitting on Qantas for most of the last 40 years. We've sold our designs to 47 countries, which is not a bad thing for a little Queensland company. And to do 47 countries, you have to visit 70 countries 10 times. And I did most of the door knocking, and I lived on Qantas. I used to, you know, fill in my census forms. So where do you live? Qantas, or the Qantas Club, you know. And when the last 10 years, I've been watching Qantas go down in standard, go down in safety, go down in maintenance. With Mr. Joyce, they have the gay dating things in the magazine, and now these same-sex marriage things on the boarding pass and the rings and the rainbow planes. And I thought, oh, this is too much for me. I'm just a Scots Presbyterian migrant, you know. And I don't particularly like this sort of stuff. But so I wrote to the board of Qantas and I said, look, one, I think you're causing a problem. You are attracting a retaliation from would-be terrorists, because they don't like the standard run-of-the-mill terrorist doesn't like homosexuality. And for someone to take the national flag carrier and say, we're promoting homosexuality, I think is a danger, because there will be for sure a large terrorist attack in this country, and it could be on a Qantas plane. So I thought, well, number one. Number two, Mr. Joyce has taken it from number 2 airline in the world to number 9. He wrote off $2.6 billion from the bottom line. He sacked 4,500 people. He cut down the R&M budget, and the planes are shabby. They are shabby.
What's R&M? Something in maintenance?
Oh, sorry, repairs and maintenance. Yeah. He's cut down the budget. I mean, to me, that's
cut
crazy.
Down the maintenance budget on airplanes.
You know, this is a disgrace. You know, I came back from San Francisco 3 weeks ago on business class, but the flatbed, the end of the flatbed was limp. Right? So I had to prop it up with cabin baggage. It was broken. You know, just silly things like that. You know, but you can see it was a very old jumbo jet. Really, it was shabby. I described it as shabby. So I wrote to Qantas and said, look, all this sort of thing. Please, board of the Qantas, what about this guy, the pie man, banning the pie man? I said, no, I think that's petulant and hissy. But bans go both ways. So I'm banning my people from traveling with you because you're no longer delivering safe, secure, good service. So I'm banning you. So I sent this letter everywhere. And I said, you guys should be focusing on making a good airline great. Yes. Really, that's all. Yep. That's what you're paid to do. He's not paid to, you know, wave the rainbow flag and, you know, being gay is terrific. So I sent the letter everywhere. And Margaret Court picked it up. I didn't send it to her, but she picked it up.
On churchandstate.com.au.
Yes, she did.
Do you know Margaret Court?
She rang me yesterday for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she said she's been trying to get businessmen around Australia to stand up and be a voice for years. I mean, not just church businessmen. She wanted every business person to stand up for all the things that are going wrong with, you know, the same-sex marriage, or all the sort of stuff that's going on. You know, the Islamic people. Who was the guy that 30 years ago? Fred Nile. He called in a moratorium on Muslim immigration 25 years ago. They called him a bigot and everything else. He was right. He was absolutely right. But she was saying, I need businessmen to stand up and use their voice.
Yeah.
And she says, when I got your letter, she said, wow, finally, somebody's saying this. I'm going to join this and say I'm going to ban Qantas as well.
Yeah. And that's what we all need to do. It's not just business leaders or church leaders or alternate media channels. It's actually all of us need to speak up, because we're the silent majority and they actually believe their own rhetoric that these radical ideas are the most popular ideas in Australia, because they're not hearing from us. Yeah. So thank you very much, Stuart. We've probably got time for 5 more quick questions to respect the timeframes we planned for tonight. We've got 3 ready to go. I'm really keen to hear from any lefties, or if you just strongly disagree and you want to put an alternate view, the last thing we want to live in is a right echo chamber as a solution for the left echo chamber. We want to hear when we're wrong. So if you think we're wrong, come up and tell us why. Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a look at this great video next, and check out the website for even more interesting articles and episodes later.